But I want to welcome you all for coming to the celebration of life and remembrance for our classmate and great friend, Mike Fitzgerald. I do want to mention that, and you're probably all not aware of this, but our class has lost 73 of our class members have passed away. That's a pretty high number. So it seems to me, but
No, 37. 37.
Did I say, what did I say?
You said 73, you reversed it.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
73 would be high.
Yeah, well, I'm dyslexic, that's why I never took any of those econ courses with Professor Nicholson. Anyway, so 37, and we will post that actually. Can we post that on the Gaggle page?
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know what the Gaggle page is, it's just see Jim Kennedy and you can sign up for it. It's sort of a neat way to stay connected as a group, as we were fighting sort of how to stay connected. And so, so I'm going to speak a little bit about my relationship with Mike, and I won't be long. We just had a wonderful ceremony 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday down in Needham, Mass, where Mike was from, a wake and then a funeral, and I spoke pretty extensively there. So I won't bore you, we'll hear some reflection, but also reflections from different classmates that want to get up and say something. And I encourage any and all of you to do that. This is a great, small, tight group, which is wonderful. And you hear a little bit about that when I read his wife Betsy's note, which I'll do. But anyway, I'll just start. And so I first met Mike in the fall of 1971, when we all first met, okay? And there were a bunch of us, it was the end of the first week, and there were a bunch of us down in the Stearns basement shooting pool. And I think I was on the table for my 5th straight game or something. And so I was shooting pool, and I looked up and I saw this guy walk in, and there were like 5 or 6 guys around him, looking at him, talking to him. And I thought, boy, who's that guy, sort of thing. And I could tell it was Fitzy holding court. The way Fitzy, like a lot of people don't hold court like that. Fitzy held court like that. He wasn't loud. You know, the whole thing, he was just holding court, and people wanted to be around Mike. And I said, I gotta meet that guy. I met him later that night, and we've been friends however many years that is, onward, 50 plus years. We became friends for life. IBM, Harvard Business School, I know we've all got our stories, but Mike's is certainly of interest. He's at Harvard Business School and finally building his own venture capital firm, Commonwealth Capital. He had so many great successes in his life. Tom Santos, who couldn't be here today, once said of Mike, he's very close to Mike. He said, Mike just didn't make money, he built wealth. And I know there are guys out there who have done the same, but I think that's the difference, because I make money, Mike made wealth. He created something really special. And yet, again, what you'll see through his wife's letter is his strength didn't come from Commonwealth Capital or his partners. It came from Amherst and his friendships at Amherst. He had the best of wives, Betsy, who's just been wonderful. 3 lovely daughters, followed by 5 grandsons. He had, as I looked at it from the outside, a model life, and I really believe it was. And if you didn't know, Mike had a degenerative cognitive issues for about the last 8 years or so. He was diagnosed with CTE. And so even in his last days, you know, Mike's physicalness, his strength, his body, that we all remember, was still with him. But, you know, he lost the rest of it, and it was hard. He was, if you saw the way that Mike played football, you'd understand how he got CTE. Mm-hmm. You can add 2 and 2 together, because I didn't know anybody that was, Mike wanted to hit anything that moved, right? And that's what he did as a linebacker. But he's also a golfing savant. You don't think of, you know, great football players being great golfers, but he really was. And I could tell stories on and on and on about particularly my last few years with Mike, when he didn't know what club he was hitting. And when I gave him the club to hit, because I had learned his game so well, he would hit it within 3 feet. And there are a couple other letters that I've received from people that they'd like me to read if we have time. that we'll talk a little bit about that. It was an amazing thing. He really was just a golfing savant, but he also lived the game. I mean, you know, the things that golf is supposed to teach that we talk about, and the integrity and the honesty. That was Mike. That was Mike throughout his whole life. And he loved what golf taught and lived his life similarly. It was hard to witness the game that Mike so revered, so slowly taken away from him. It was just gradually taken away from him. But what it did was it brought a small group of us who knew him well and played golf with him closer together. And so by the end, there's a group of 4, 5, 6 of us that played golf with him on a regular basis and appreciated, you know, and saw what was happening. That it really brought us close together. And they were special. The last few years, as hard as it was, the more special it was. And then, you know, I mean, I'll miss Mike every day. I don't think there'll be a time when I tee the ball up that I don't think of him. And I'll tell one little story on that. I wasn't gonna tell this, but so the day that he passed away, I got a call at like 5:30 in the morning from Betsy, you know, and it was final, finally. I mean, you know, we all knew it was coming, and it was final. And so Mandy and I were gonna go up and visit Mike again that day, but instead we go up to play our normal 9 holes of golf in the morning. And she said, hey, maybe we should dedicate this round of golf to Mike. And of course I knew better, because my game's not that good to dedicate to anything or anybody. I wouldn't want to embarrass Mike with my game. And so I get up and I par the first hole, lo and behold. In the second hole, great drive, second shot at pull. I have an impossible third shot. And this is the honest to God truth. I looked up and I said, you gotta help me out here, buddy. What would you do, right? And I did something that I played it differently than I would have played it before. Put it to 2 feet, made my par. Last par I made that day, but you know, I made my par. And so, you know, rest in peace, Mike, and we're really gonna miss you. I do have a short statement here on from his wife. It's called Mike's Tribute at Amherst. Mike and I were married for 42 years. So this is all from her. So this is, and I'll tell you what this quote's in it. But we had known each other for much longer, having met in middle school. I knew Mike before Amherst and after. I saw firsthand how much his college experience shaped him and prepared him for a life well lived by any measure. We were a team raising our family of 3 wonderful girls, me fortunate enough to be at home with the kids, and Mike working tirelessly to achieve his next goal for all of us. Living with 4 women wasn't always easy, constantly explaining to him, and here's the quotes, it's not what you said, Mike, it's how you said it. Your delivery was awful. Mike did a lot of shaking of his head. My daughters, Megan, Kate, and Molly shared their reflections about Mike as a dad at his funeral service. They said that while Mike seemed to have a relatively linear path in life, Amherst, IBM, business school, and a 40-year career in the field of his choice, they like to think of themselves as the curveball in his life. 3 girls softened Mike a bit and challenged him often, especially during their teenage years. They also noted Mike's generosity, and here's a quote again, the ease in which Dad gave, his attention, his advice, his care, his love, becomes more and more remarkable as we get older, realizing how rare it is. While his daughters didn't go to Amherst, they grew up attending homecoming football games and knowing the fight song by heart. They hated purple cows as much as their dad did. Amherst not only prepared Mike for an incredibly successful career, it provided him with some of the most important and meaningful relationships of his life. The friendships he formed at Amherst became our friends, and today I'm grateful they are our family. When Mike's cognitive challenges first became apparent, our Amherst family were the first to check in, first to show up, and last to leave. They were there by Mike and my side through it all, and I'll be eternally grateful. Dave, Tom, Danny, Ernie, Bill, Horst, our extended Amherst family, and all the friends of Amherst that meant so much to Mike, me and our girls, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so, you know, again, for you guys. Well, I'm going to take, with that, as I struggle to the end of that, I'm gonna take just a little bit of break here, and I'll read another letter as we have to, but there are some other people that wanted to speak. And I'll just say to you, before I get off the stage, is that at the end of all of this, I'm hoping that you all clear your throats and we sing a nice Lord Jeffrey Amherst for Mike. We'll do that at the end, but Ernie Williams.
What we all don't really appreciate, and Dave didn't really, because he is who he is. Dave was especially close to Mike, and especially over the last few years, and was a tremendous help to Betsy and the family. The biggest challenge, and the times that I got together with them to play golf and so forth, was really struggling to see this happen to Mike. Mike was a guy, as Dave said, we met freshman year, but we played football together, along with Horse. Danny Johnson took us in at DU in a room group for sophomore year. The four of us roomed together, and we've remained friends ever since. And over the years, we have been very fortunate to get together. The golfing savant, he kind of, that was our rallying cry. That was the reason we got together, but it was to get together to continue to talk about the friendships that started right here back in 1971. This is homecoming weekend here, and in a lot of places, a lot of religions and so forth, one's funeral is considered their time for homecoming. And so it's kind of appropriate that we're gathering here. Just as we did last week, a few of us, or many of us, got together in Needham for the actual funeral and the wake. But we're so glad that so many of you could be here today. Mike was a special guy. I think we all know that. My relationship, as I said, goes back to freshman year, and now that we're the age that we are, it's incredible. But the times that I remember of late, I'll tell one. We were out playing with Bill Healy. Doc had invited us to his place, and it was kind of day two, I think, of 2 days of golf. We started at Mike's place at Hyannisport, and then we went up to play in I think it was a tournament actually at Eastward Hall up in Chatham. And Bill had booked the foursome, and then we kind of thought that the day before with Mike, that was going to be the last time that we got to play with Mike, that Mike was not going to be well enough to join us. But that morning, got up for breakfast, and Mike grabbed his stuff and said, okay, I'm ready to go play. So now we have the challenge. And Bill worked it out with the pro at his place, and Mike came out and rode around with us. We helped him out. I think he just made 9 holes, and Dave was kind enough to leave early to take him back home. But I just remember Doc Healy's comment to me. He says, you know what, I think this is the last time we've ever got to play golf with Mike, and unfortunately it was. But there's a lot of those acts of caring, I think, on the part of many of our classmates here. Mike played football. Mike was a golfer. In this room are classmates and schoolmates that didn't play sports but knew Mike off the court and off the fields. And I think that's the reason you're all here today. You've chosen to be here today. So I just want to thank everyone for coming as well. And again, he didn't say it, but Dave was extremely close to this family. And he was fortunate enough to be in a position that he and Mandy could go visit Mike, take a lot of the pressure off of Betsy, who was 24/7 caregiver for that brief time for those visits, and look after Mike the way they did. But thank you all.
I like Mike. Great guy. Personality, kind, generous, giving. I like him. met Mike, I think before his wife. We grew up on the same street. Our parents were friendly. They had 5 kids, we had 5 kids. And I watched Mike. So I have a perspective. I'm not his best friend. I'm not a family friend. But I've seen him for probably 60 years, maybe more. Yeah, more. And we played football at Needham. Mike was better than me. We played football at Amherst, and you saw up here, he was better than me. We played a lot of golf, better than me. We were both very successful in our careers, so Mike made more money, but that's okay. And I finally figured out today one thing that I did that Mike didn't do. He was number 66. I was number 67. One more. And if he was here, he'd be laughing. I never pointed that out to him while he was with us. My thoughts today are very simple. Michael Thomas Fitzgerald had a gift. His gift was people. People was his gift. He learned from people. He taught people. He experienced people. And people became his friends. And that gift, not all of us have it. I have a question for everyone. Have you ever met anyone that didn't like Mike? The answer is no. Because living in Boston, I know people he competed against in business, golf, school things. We all have interactions that aren't as pleasant as we might like. But at the end, everyone liked Mike. It was a gift. And many of us would like that gift. My best memory of Mike is towards the end. And we had our foursome. We were playing golf. And he had hit his last shot ever on the 11th hole. And we kind of realized it. Hicks and I mentioned that to each other. Ernie mentioned it. But they didn't leave after 9. Mike mentioned it, but we talked him into staying. So we're coming off the 15th green. He says, I gotta go. I look at Hicks. He goes, you tell him. I said, Mike, we're not going. Okay, you know, Mike set his jaw, and he sat in the cart, but when we got in, and we all ordered a beer, he said, now I'm going. And Hicks took him home then. I'm here because I like Mike. I've known him as long as anyone, and I've observed him longer than anyone here. He was a great guy. We will all miss Mike.
Again, was part of that room group and a golfing partner, particularly toward the end as it brought some of us closer together. This is from Danny. This is his writing. So if the tenses are wrong and everything else is on me. Remembering Mike Fitzgerald was a friend for over 50 years. We played football together. We roomed in DU together. We go back a long time. He had so many sides. He'd be so focused and driven as on the golf course or the football field. He could also be intensely competitive in wiffle ball on a DU lawn. And he could be a goofball. By the way, that's the picture of the goofball. I remember so often laughing together at the silliest things and finding humor in those trying moments in life when we just couldn't believe something had broken, been forgotten, it didn't work out. Mike had a great laugh. He had, to use the Boston term, a wicked sense of humor. He was as loyal and passionate toward friends and family as anyone I've met. Mike was also one of the most generous people I've ever known. Over the years, he's given me golfing shirts, sweaters, clubs, and treated me so kindly in more ways than I can recount. Once we were going to play golf in a tournament at his course down in Florida at Fiddlesticks. Where's my guy from Fiddlesticks here? There you go, right back there. And Mike realized for some reason we had one too many people in our group. He insisted that I play and he would be my caddy. With his game, I should have been carrying his clubs. But like whatever he did, he was actually a damn good caddy, and he made sure I had a great time. We lost Mike a few weeks ago, but truth be told, we've been slowly losing him over the past several years to a brain disorder. This has been very difficult for his family and friends, but everyone has tried to make the best of it. And some of our last golfing excursions, Mike's disease had erased his profanity filter. And he frequently and uncharacteristically kept hitting into bunkers. Phrases that would make a sailor blush flew out of his mouth over and over, and I found myself praying he'd keep the hell out of the sand. But he'd step into those bunkers and repeatedly hit the prettiest sand shots you've ever seen. That was Mike. You were an amazing person, my friend, and someone whose friendships and memories I will treasure for the rest of my life. I will miss you, Mike, but I guess I've been missing you for some time now. You have passed on, but will live in my heart and my mind for the rest of my life. That I promise. I love you, Mike. And just as horse is approaching here, so this whole weekend, we were trying to figure out what to do with Mike, and we had, the big funeral and the big wake. And Horse, I said, geez, maybe we can get a gathering and do what we've often done before. And Horse said, well, geez, what about that chapel in that place? And I called it Whitcomb for the first 2 weeks. I don't know why. Probably because I never had a class here. I probably couldn't name any of the buildings except the fraternities. So we decided on this, and then he said, remember the Dart? And when the Dart was getting on, and they did a big celebration for me, and they did the hats, the Dart hats. Well, he had a brilliant idea. It's to do a Fitz hat in the same model with 66 on the back, and of course, those were both your doing, so you're up, my man.
Thanks. Well, Fitz was my teammate, my roommate, but most of all, he was my friend. And from the day we met, maybe not the very day we met, but we met in freshman football, first week we were here. And, we got all our equipment, all that sort of stuff, and we're doing what you do to try and prove that you were worthy of playing. One evening, it was after dinner, I was walking in front of Stearns. And all of a sudden this empty beer can bounces on the sidewalk in front of me. What's this? And I looked up and there were a bunch of guys on the 4th floor looking out, seeing who they hit. I looked up there and thought, well, I'm really not all that pissed about this. I decided I need to meet these guys, my kind of people. So I went up there, and in that room with Mike, I think Joe Burns was in there. Fortunately, another of our classmates is gone. And a couple others. Were you there, Manny? I can't remember. No?
I can't remember.
You were
I
there.
was there.
You were there. I know. Well, Mike was.
I was on the first floor with John White.
Mike was the leader of the group. Anyway, I met him, and that's where we started to become friends rather than just classmates and teammates. And I always mentioned that we roomed together for a year in our sophomore year, and then our senior year we were part of like 12 of us down in the social dorms where we had all of our interconnected bathrooms and stuff, and we were it was a great group to be with. I never played golf with Fitzy. I did not play golf. I tried, but I hated it. But I have been on many golf courses with him because I became the designated photographer for many of the golf outings that Amherst has had, and the individual outings that were put together by Bill and others. So I got a ton of pictures of him. And when you compare his stroke, and I know nothing about it, but his stroke to the others he was playing with, and I won't name any more names, big difference. And it's just an ease of the swing and knowing what to do. He was pretty amazing, and even as a non-golfer, I appreciate it. I spent, 20-some years living in the Midwest, so I didn't get back here all that often. Didn't see Mike all that often. Would see him when I came back to a homecoming once in a while. But when I moved back here 20-some years ago, we reconnected, and it was really kind of nice. He's one of those friends where if you saw him last week or you saw him 10 years ago, it was like you were picking up from the last conversation. It was just an easy relationship. The last thing that I will share with you is we had another special relationship on the football field. I was a defensive tackle, down lineman. There's a linebacker standing up behind me, and we would call different defenses, and on certain defenses, we'd do a stunt together, but he wouldn't tell me which way. Basically, I'd go one way, he'd go the other. He wouldn't tell me which way before we got lined up, but he'd come up behind me, oops, put his hands on my butt, like this. And when he decided which way to go, he would squeeze one side and the other, tell me which way I was going. So ever since then, we had a very special. Gonna miss him. Great friend. Great guy. And hats. We got a lot of them. $20 each.
Right, you're right. He lived on this river down at the Cape, and the river's about a mile until you get out into the open ocean. And Mike would go really slowly, which you had to do on this river. And it was very peaceful. There were all these wonderful homes up on the side of it, and everything was just smooth and easy. And then all of a sudden, you'd hit open water. Now we're on our way to Baxter's, which is a fried food place down on the Cape, and great fried clams, probably the best I've ever had. Mike loved to eat there, and he'd always say, hey, we're going to Baxter's, and we're going to eat like champs. Well, we'd hit that open water, 3-foot swells. He'd put that thing in overdrive, and the music that was blaring, are you ready for this? Now this is the throwback. Norman Greenbaum. Spirit in the Sky. Right? And we literally would be airborne after the trip, and he was all excited. The rest of us were soaking wet by the time we get to Baxter's, so that we could eat like champs. Well, I have one last thing to read, one last note, and that was from his good friend Tom Santos. Tom Santos was also a football player at DU, a lot of connections there, not a golfer. And he just wrote something really simple. He wrote, Mike Fitzgerald was one of the finest human beings that the good Lord ever placed on the earth. I was blessed to call him my best friend for 52 years. His friendship enriched my life, and his presence in the world made it a better place for all of us. He will be missed more than I can find the words to express. Rest in peace, old friend. Anybody else that'd like to share? Yes, Funker, come on up.
I didn't know Dave, Mike nearly as well as Dave and some of you others, but there's one moment that I'll always remember. It was a Stearns Hall moment, freshman year, and the fourth floor must have been where the beer was. I was with, eventually it was at Chi Phi, and we had beer and other things at Chi Phi. And the other things were down on the first floor. After studying probably 10, 11 o'clock at night, everyone would congregate down there. And sure enough, Mike came down, and look at his picture there. And very clean cut, football player, straight and narrow, etc. Good Catholic boy. So he wasn't familiar with, well, it's legal now, so I can call it cannabis. He wasn't familiar with weed back then. And the professionals, you know who you are out there, were using a kazoo to smoke. And so they're well into it. And he comes down, and he'd never experienced that. Sure enough, they welcomed him in, and of course they thought this was great. Big tough guy football player was going to smoke some dope. So they gave him the kazoo, and sure enough, he thought he'd take a big hit on it, and he did. And sure enough, because he was in great shape, all the smoke went down and made him cough, because his lungs were fresh and sneezed, and of course the kazoo just blew all the weed up in it, and of course, come on. So everyone was very disappointed that he didn't get as big a hit as he could have. But he was a wonderful man, and we'll all miss him, even those brief moments. So thank you very much.
Anybody else? At this, I can tell you, knowing Rick from way back when, this is going to be a very slow methodical delivery.
I've been working on that bit, so get up on this with you. I met Mike sophomore year at DU. We were roommates junior year and senior year. We shared that pod down into the Stone. Stone. Yeah, I don't know what it's called now, but we all have regrets. And but my regrets is losing touch with Mike. Work, family, grandkids, occasional homecoming. It's been quite a while, so I wasn't aware of Mike's condition. And I got the text from Dave that he had passed away. It was a shock. But what I remembered, and I think this says something about Mike, our senior year we were playing basketball. I think Tommy Santos was there, I forget who else. And the ball hit my ring finger, fourth finger, dislocated my knuckle. I said, oh, shoot. It's not. Mike comes right over. He's not an EMT, he's not a doctor, but he came right over and put it right back in place. So right back in place. And that memory, I think, came to me because that's who Mike is because he's still here. That's who he is. Come right over, do anything for you, react right away. And that's one of many memories that will stay with me.
Mark Melio's lawyer, I'm going to put him on the clock. He's only got 3 minutes.
I was gonna tell you that I had him. Amito, what's really important that I see, class of 72, recruiter of many of you to DU and some of you, long time, very close, but there's a proverb that says, a spirit is always alive as long as there are people that remember that spirit. And you are all that, an amazing group. I still picture you all the way he looks in that picture, and that what's prompted me as I look out. Some of you I know very well, some less, but I still see you as that image as freshmen, and Doc as a sophomore. And I was looking and watching, and you gotta know what Amherst means to me, looking at you and you looking at me, who had 1 year really to interact with you. I'm very proud of what Mike represented and the fact that somebody as close to us, passing before his time, lives on in all of you. And I think some of you I love really dearly. You know who you are pretty much. There's a lot of affection when you're the rush chairman at DU. Rookie is my little brother here. And those of you that have followed the basketball team, I lost touch with Mike despite him being in Eastern Mass. But I've always known him, and your representation here means a lot. It means somebody to me who feels, some pride in all of you being here together. Thank you.
And, he's a special guy, and tough to lose him before his time when everything was coming together in his life and he was finally getting ready to retire, and for all of this to happen to him, one of life's tragedies. And but I can't tell how much I appreciate all of you taking the time to be here today, to, as Mito said so well, to continue his spirit. And, love the guy, we'll sorely miss him, and, but thank you all for giving such a heartfelt and wonderful tribute to him today. And if I can, you could see, I'm purposely faking losing my voice now so I don't have to lead you in chorus, as the class Corrigas would, for those that have read it. I know you have, Murph, I saw that, you've read the class Corrigas. We're just gonna sing, I know a lot of you know the second, third, and fourth, and fifth, and sixth verses, we're not going there. But I love for us to sing a verse. I have to tell you, so Ernie's better half, Lauren, had to clean out her phone once. And so she's going through and she's cleaning out all these old videos to sort of limit the space. She came up with this video of, we can't quite figure out the year, but it was a number of years ago. Looked like a homecoming game, and there were a bunch of guys. Tom Santos was there, Ernie was there, there's some other guys there. And they're all in Fitz and Mike singing Lord Jeffrey Amherst after touchdown, which they don't do, of course, anymore. And who in the middle is standing there and just bellowing it out was Mike himself. And it was just, you know, what a great found video at just the right time. And it was so special. So, I know, George, you have a booming voice. George, you still have that booming voice or no? No?
No, I can't talk.
What, John Williams, for heaven's sakes. John Williams, for heaven's sakes.
Guys, I just want to remind you as he gets his teed off on this one's for Mike. This one's for Mike, have fun with it.
Oh, Lord Jeffrey Amherst was a soldier of the king, and he came from across the sea. To the Frenchmen and the Indians he didn't do a thing in the wilds of this wild country. In the wilds of this wild country. And for his royal majesty he fought with all his might, for he was a soldier, loyal and true. And he conquered all the enemies that came within his sight, and he looked around for more when he was through. Oh, Amherst, brave Amherst, was a name known to fame in days of yore. May it ever be glorious, till the sun shall climb the heavens no more.
Rest in peace, Mike. Rest in peace. Thank you, everybody.